Hey, you're watching Driver 88. So for this video, if you don't know, I spent essentially the last year without owning a car for the very first time in my adult life. And I thought, as I didn't have a license for a year and sold all my cars, I thought that I would add up the losses of all the cars that I've owned in the last 17 years or so for the sake of it. And it came to a horrific figure that you can see in the title. And I thought that I would just share that fiscal stupidity for your own entertainment and hope that you can maybe share some notes about some of the cars that you have potentially taken a bath on and don't want to admit, because most people just never admit how much money they've lost on our stupid obsession, our enthusiasm for vehicles. So what I'm going to do is go through the last 17 years of car ownership. I think 14 or 15 cars I've got here, and I'm going to keep a tally of woe here or here as we go up the years and through the models. Now, some of these models are pretty usual suspects where they have horrific depreciation. Some of them you'll be surprised, and some of them I even made some money on or broke even on that also may surprise you. So let's get started. We go all the way back to 2006 or 7, I can't remember. It's the Opel Astra. Paid $17,000 for that all the way back in 2006 or 7, and I sold it for $5,000 like 6 years later. So that's already getting off to a good start here. My next car in 2012 was a Mark 6 Golf R. Love that car, paid 53,000 Australian dollars. Now, I should have already said this, but everything is in Australian dollars for this video. Sold it for 28. The next one after that was an Audi S3, a red one, paid 72,000, lost 20,000 on that car. The next one, an RS3, this was a little bit later, but paid 98,000 and lost 40 grand on that one. So we're already up to, in our tally of woe, 99 or $100,000 here. And this is where things start to get a little bit serious, and the usual suspects basically rear their ugly head. So I bought a 570S. It's one of the first ones in the country back in 2016. Paid $420,000 for that. And of course I took a bath on it, 115 grand to be exact. I really love that car, tuned it, very good. 720S was the next one. Again, one of the early adopters. I bought that in 2017. It's already like 7 years ago now, almost. 570,000. Of course, I took a big bath on the 720S in black, 120 grand worth. Part of that 120 grand was when I went off on track and then sort of sandpapered half the underside of the car and had to get all that fixed and repainted. But I tell you now, that loss of 120 grand, I do not regret one bit. That 720S, I look back on as some of the best experiences and times of my life. There's friends and experiences that I have forever since then, and friends that I still have relationships with today that I speak to all the time. So that, I almost don't regret that enormous amount of loss that I made. Now, the next one will surprise you as well. I used to have an Alfa Stelvio Quadrifoglio. Awesome car to drive, really good looking car, I think, as an SUV. Now, I think the retail back in 2018 or something like that was 165 grand. I got an absolute steal because, of course, they were struggling to sell them. This is a brand new car. I think I spent 125 grand and the car was written off in an accident. And so a year later, when I got a new car ordered, all the prices went up. So everything went up, and I made like almost 15 grand on selling my Alfa Romeo. So I don't know anyone who's bought a near new Alfa Romeo and then sold it for a profit. Maybe some of people have done it in these COVID years, but pretty rare. So usually you would think I'd get that car cut in half, but I didn't. So that was one that's completely off the norm. The next is a C63 507. These things cost a fair bit in Australia, and I bought this really, really cool matte silver car when the prices were pretty high. So 95 grand I paid for that, and I would say once I'd gone through all the selling it and all the costs of doing it up and stuff, I think I'd say a loss of about $10,000. And the next one is absolutely brutal. There's not a person in this world that has lost this much money, I think, on a 3RS than me. Now, I bought this GT3RS 991.1 for 420,000 Australian dollars. Pretty much brand new. It was just been sitting in someone's garage for like 16 months or something like that. And I perfectly, well, let me get to a little bit earlier than that. So this 3RS, I drove it for about 12,000 kilometers. It spent its entire life at the track. Again, amazing experiences. Pretty much the only time I drove it was at like 9,000 RPM. track days, drive days. I did all the things that I wanted to do with it over 2 years, and I was ready to sell it. And then at that time, the market absolutely shat itself. So I perfectly timed the bottom of the market with the 3RS. So I sold it, I think it was early 2020, of course, when everyone was terrified. If I had waited maybe 3 months or 6 months, I would have made like 25% more. So I lost 120 grand on a GT3 RS because I sold it for 300. Just brutal. Like, I'm kind of like Salamandrin, or I guess Chris Harris has done this too, just selling stuff at the absolute bottom of the market. But you know, at the time you can't tell the future, and I just had my time with the car, so I sold it at whatever the market was paying at the moment, and I perfectly timed it at the bottom. So that's definitely, I think, the worst one out of all of them is my 3RS. Christ, people are still asking like almost what I bought it for back in 2018 or so. All right, next car, i20N. I think the i20N is still one of the best cars you can possibly buy today. I got a steal on that car. Slightly different price bracket than the 3RS, 35.5 grand. I got a discount, and then they increased the price on that a couple more times. So I actually sold it for 2 grand more than I paid, which pretty much break even once you factor in all the costs and everything like that. The next one, the GR Yaris Rally, I lost about 10 grand on that. I should have kept that longer, but I think the i20N was actually a car that I enjoyed much more as an all-round car to use for day-to-day. Cpra Leon 300, also a car that I really liked. I spent too much stupid money on tuning that thing and parts and lost at least 8-10 grand on that. 718 GT4. Here's another thing that may surprise you. The 718 GT4 years ago, I got a slight discount on. So forget about getting a discount on GT products. Now, go back 4.5 years and I got a tiny discount, but I got a double one because they stuffed up my spec. So I paid, I think, 245,000 Australian dollars and then sold it for more, purely because of the fact that Porsche put up, again, their retail price like twice since I bought it. So the next person pretty much just paid retail, and then everyone was happy. But with me selling it for about 10 grand more than I paid, take away PPF, insurance, track days, you name it, you know, all the extra bits, detailing, all that sort of stuff, again, essentially even. The 718 GT4 RS, I paid 387 grand. That's another car that's also had its price increased twice since it launched, and I essentially gave that back to the dealer for the same price that I paid. So a loss of probably 10K, because again, you add PPF, ceramic coating, track days, fuel insurance, all that sort of jazz, to get to a grand total of about $500,000 Australian dollars. So lessons learned, I think, from this last experience of about 17 years of having my license and driving cars, I guess is that, you know, sometimes a loss feels worth it and sometimes it doesn't. It's hard to have a crystal ball in the future, but I guess if you're on that sort of GT Porsche gravy train where you can maybe enjoy a car over a period of 2 years and then almost get your money back, is probably the golden, I guess, ticket in a way. And then you can enjoy cars, track them, and then not take a big loss. Getting into new brands like McLaren, which was very new at the time, but as much as I absolutely loved those experiences, in particular, I had a track day where, for example, it was like an empty track. I was following, because I'm an absolute nugget at driving, I was able to follow a professional Carrera Cup driver, follow their line in the 720 and just learn so much and have amazing experiences with friends. It feels kind of worth it. But yeah, that is the experience. Let me know some of your experiences, cars that you flipped. I'm sure you told me about all these cars you've made plenty of money on in the last few years, and ones that you just absolutely got bent over. So this is Driver 88. I just hope you got entertained by that and had some shocks or cars that you thought, you know, were expected, and I'll speak to you next time.